Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the online user group. This session will be about sports and retail. We'll just highlight some of the features that you may not be aware of, the tools that may assist you. The phones are muted, so if you have any questions as we're going through, please just use the chat function to direct them. If it's to do with what we're currently talking about, I'll probably try and address them right there and then. If not, I may wait till the end of the session where we have an open Q&A for folks to submit questions. These sessions are being taped, so basically the video and the presentation slides will be available to everyone on the Jonas website. It'll give us a couple of weeks though to polish them up, and then we'll publish them onto the website for you. Okay, so let's get started on our session. Inventory count conversion factors. This is a feature that we added in, I think it was 12.4, 12.5, that effectively allows you to do an automatic conversion when you're doing enter item counts or upload item counts. So the idea is if you are counting them by the dozen, you can set up a code that represents a dozen, but then put in, we used to call it a multiplier, they're calling it a divisor, to say each one of these is equal to 12. So when you count 2 boxes, it would know to put it in as 24 rather than you having to convert it. So it's just a code for that particular conversion and description, and then whatever the multiplier or divisor is. Okay. The other thing, especially from the retail standpoint, is a gift receipt. So if someone comes in and purchases some products that they're going to give away as a gift, especially clothing, it'll still print the regular receipt, but you can actually have it set up so that the person processing the transaction could also print a gift receipt. So it'll look very similar to the receipt, except it'll have no pricing on it. Now, there is no preset form for this. You have to use the design your own form to get this gift receipt. Now, I believe if you go in there, we do have a default template for the gift receipt. So you actually can just take our default one, save as, and you can use it if you like. If you want to make changes to it, you just click on Design, which will take you into the Design Zone. There's nothing hard-coded in here as to club name or anything like that, so you actually can use our default one right out of the box. It shouldn't be an issue. But if you wanted to edit these text or change the order in which they show, then you can get into the design to start changing things. Now, the system, remember, is going to print the regular receipt as normal. So in order for the person processing this transaction to issue a gift receipt, they're going to have a button added to the point of sale to allow them to do that. So it's basically under the menu setup. There's a function called print user design. So you just place that on a button, and then the key is at the bottom here, you link it to your design that you have. So then as I'm processing that transaction, I can hit this gift receipt. It'll print out the one without the pricing, and then I can settle the bill and print the regular receipt. User card swipe in option. This is an option you have to eliminate people processing by typing in a code. So literally they can just use a magnetic card that they can just swipe on the terminal and it would log them right into Jonas. This can come in handy if you want to start forcing, for instance, in the retail shop, you have 2 tills and 3 people working, and you want to force them to ring in their transactions under their own code. That's a bit awkward when you have to sign in with a unique code each time. But using a card, it's very quick. So you literally just walk up and swipe, and you're in the point of sale. simple to set up. You do not need to get any specialized cards from Jonas or any extra modules. You basically, for most clients using this, they just go to a third-party vendor and purchase a flat of like 1,000 blank cards. The key from our standpoint is that magnetic card, whether it's blank or has your logo on it, doesn't matter, but the magnetic stripe must have the unique card number encoded on it. So basically at that point, if I'm setting up a new user or a user loses a card, I just pull them up under user administration, take a card from the box, and input that new card number. And from that point, it'll work for them to log into Jonas. The only thing to be aware of is if you are using our Timekeeper module, then the card number doesn't go in here, it goes into Timekeeper. That's only because Timekeeper overrides the user admin. So if you've got Timekeeper, you can still do this. You just have to put the card number into the Timekeeper staff setup rather than the user admin. There's a field there as well for the card. Key performance indicators. We've added a couple of new reports under manager functions. There's key performance indicators F&B and key performance indicators retail. Really the difference between the two is the F&B report only looks at point of sale. The retail report looks at point of sale and inventory. So the food and beverage report, if you run it, will give you sales, average per unit, and average per cover, which would be meaningless on the retail side. The retail report will give you sales, average per sale, and an average margin if it's an inventory item. Now, we display it as a gauge or a cylinder or a thermometer. You can pick which. And we will show you daily, monthly, yearly, and it does do comparative. So it'll show you what you're doing today and what you did this day last year, month to date last year, year to date last year. These can be exported, so you can copy them to the clipboard and paste them into a Word document. You can just print them, or you can download the images to use somewhere else. If you're using the Jonas dashboard view rather than the classic view, you can have these as widgets that will pop up when you sign in as well. And so that's what they will look like. And so this is giving me, I'm in the yearly tab, so this is year to date this year, and the green one is year to date last year. The today tab and graph is based on real time, so as people process tickets, it will adjust accordingly, but monthly and yearly figures don't get updated until the end of day is run for that outlet. Change sales categories. So this is a utility you have that would allow you to make global changes to a bunch of sales categories in one go. Now you cannot change everything. There are only certain fields this will work with. But especially on the retail front, retail tend to have a lot of categories, especially when you get into clothing. So there can be, 30, 40 different categories set up. So if I want to just go through and change the tax table that it's referencing for all my clothing categories, you would have to go in one category at a time and change it. If you use this utility, you can do it across multiple categories in one go. So these are the fields that you can change. So in that example, I wanted to change the tax code, so I would flag the tax code and put in what I want the new tax code to be. Then I would click Proceed, and it would then ask me, well, which categories do you want that to take effect for? So at this point, I could pick the specific categories that I want that tax code to be changed for. So I can run a preview, and then if I'm satisfied with what's going to happen, I can update it which will actually make the changes to the categories for me. There is a loyalty program built into the point of sale. You get it automatically. The frequent flyer or loyalty program can either track points per dollar used or spent, or dollars and cents per dollar used. When you're setting it up, you can have different loyalty programs within, say, the golf side or the tennis side or the spa, or you could have one loyalty program for sports and another loyalty program for food and beverage. It doesn't really matter to the system. If you're setting up a loyalty program that's going to be dollars per dollar spent, you're going to need to get the accounting department involved because there's a GL impact. So if you're doing points, there's not really a GL impact until they start to redeem. But if you're doing points per dollar, then really there's an impact as soon as they start earning. So we need a liability account, we need a revenue account for when they expire, that type of thing. Settlement allows you to fine-tune the loyalty program. So I have one client who recently set up the loyalty program, and they basically did not, want anything that was billed to the member account to earn points. It was only members that paid cash or credit card that would earn points in the loyalty program. So settlement allows you to dictate it's all settlements or it's only these specific settlements that will earn points. Now you can actually dictate in the loyalty program which purchases earn points and what they can be used for to redeem. So in there you're able to define it by the individual item or by the entire category. So client may set this up for, say, golf guest fees. So every time a member spends $1, this grid is based on $1 spent, spends $1 for guest fees, let's say these are green fees, then they get 1 point. If they purchase this, let's say it's a cart rental, they get 50 points. So you can define what it is. For the ones I've done, most of them prefer to do, rather than points per dollar spent, they prefer to do dollar per dollar spent. There's really no preference from the club standpoint. It tends to be that the members tend to follow the dollar per point a lot more, or dollar per dollar spent a lot more easily than the point. Set up exactly the same way. The only thing I will warn you about is one club where they were doing dollars per dollar spent, and what they did is they listed like cart rentals and put $1 in. So you're basically saying if they spend $50 in cart rentals, they get $50 in loyalty points. If you're doing dollars per dollar spent, normally you want a fraction. So I would want this to be like 0.10, so they earn 10 cents for every dollar that they spend in that particular category or item. You can also define for the redemption. So in this example, for every dollar they spend on this, they get 1 point, and they have to have at least 100 points before they can use it to get this item. If you're doing dollars per dollar spent, this can be, again, 10 cents for every dollar spent, and this could be 1 cent, which means if they've got 25 cents stored up, they can use that to offset the price of this item. They still have to pay the difference, but it means they can use it right away, or it can be set to a threshold. There is a full tracking. So from the loyalty program menu, you have an inquiry screen that will show where that member earned points and where they've used them. This can also be set up as a button on the point of sale so that there's a direct link, just like credit book inquiry, credit inquiry, gift certificate inquiry, where the user can pull it up and see exactly where that member has earned and used points. cash tendered. If you deal with cash transactions, I recommend you turn this flag on. This flag is underneath point of sale system administration terminal setup in the settlement options on the right. You would have to turn it on for each terminal. So if you have 3 terminals in the shop, you would have to do this for each of those terminals. But the advantage is that this, all along, Jonas has been able to, if I have a $490 bill and I give you $500, it will come up and say on the screen, you owe $10 change to this person. What this flag does is does that, but it's one step further. It actually prints it right on the bill. So it would actually say, this is your bill, this is how much you tendered in cash, this is how much we gave back. Again, that is under point of sale, system admin, terminal setup. And it's under settlement options. Now, member status discounts. Most clubs are doing discount either through a discount, item discount, or discount comp button right on the point of sale, or a markdown button on the point of sale. And as you know, the discount ones have a direct link to the GL. The downside, though, is that the person ringing that in has to know to hit those buttons in order to get the discount. The discount by status is basically completely automated. So when I open a ticket to that member, as I ring the items in, the system automatically calculates the discount for you. Now these are simple to set up. They're set up under the status, so you'd have to go to Club Management, Club Setup, Member Status Rules. But you'd pull up each status, say active or fitness full or golf full or tennis full, and then basically there's a POS discount on the right which would bring this up. And then all you need to do is tell it which category and what percentage discount they want. If you want it across multiple categories, you just have to put multiple entries in. You can only do percentages. You can't do flat amount discounts through this. You can have it valid for a specific range. So if I only wanted this discount to be in effect through our last month of the season, I can give it a date range. And there's a GL tie-in, so when I discount this 5%, this is the GL it's going to go into. Now, talking about the markdown, as you know, when you have the item discount, the discount comp button on the point of sale, they're tied into a GL account. So when I discount that item by $20, that $20 is accounted for on the general ledger. Markdown can also track to the general ledger. Some clubs avoid using Markdown because on the accounting side, there's no tracking if you use the Markdown. Well, you can, it's just a matter of setting it up. The big difference is the Markdown button, the link to the GL is not set on the button, but actually in the sales category. So in the sales category, you have your revenue account, but there's a column for the discount. So basically, if this is blank and I hit Markdown and mark down that item by $10, that $10 is not accounted for on the chart of accounts whatsoever. But if I have a GL account in here, that $10 I just marked down will get posted to this account to account for it. This is also handy if a club wants those markdowns to actually not hit an expense account, but actually offset against the revenues. So then I could put the revenue account in here. So that if I do a markdown for this particular category, it'll actually debit the revenue account for me. Now, you can, if you wish, email point of sale chits rather than printing off a copy of the chit. Okay. There is a bit of setup involved, so this isn't something that you can do like after we hang up the phone type of thing. You need Jonas support on this because we have to check that you have Gmail, that it's configured to do this, and then we have to direct you on how to set up the body of the email that's going to go out. The actual chit goes out as a PDF attachment, but you're going to want something for the body of the email that says, please see attached your receipt from. Like a lot of department stores do that now, right? As soon as you leave, you're getting a copy of the receipt via email as well. You can also set up a button on point of sale to launch another program on that computer. Now this can be handy, especially on the retail side where we may have another program, for instance on the golf side, that there are very sophisticated programs for tracking carts. You know, they'll tell you where the cart is on the course, what level the battery's at, whether someone's hit a panic button or something. But as you know, running Jonas Point of Sale on a workstation, you cannot minimize it. It fills the entire screen. So in order for people to switch between the two programs, you could have a button on the point of sale that just links to that program. My understanding is you can also put a website in here. So again, for tennis, golf, if they're doing outside events, we could have a link to the weather website to see what the weather forecast is. So next we're going to look at something that's in the T-sheet system, the T-time management system. This is basically a scroll display that you can have that will display information about the day's T-sheet. Now this is aimed at clubs where they'll have a large monitor set up in the, say, the borough shop or in the members lounge or in the reception area of the club. Wherever, you can actually program the T-sheet system to scroll through a series of screens on that monitor. So you can basically have it come up and show who's teeing off. It can show the T-sheet. And this is where you would configure that. This is under T-time management. So the first thing is the display, and this is where you can tell it, you can use different fonts, colors, bold italics, whatever you like. You can even put the club logo on there if you like. Now T-times, you can actually tell the system that I want it to come up with who's currently on the tee, who's next up, and then start displaying who's on the T-sheet for the day. But even that you can say, well, don't show the entire T-sheet, just show the next 4 hours worth of T-sheet bookings. End of day is a message that will pop up after the last T-sheet booking has happened. General notice is one that you can have to, it'll pop up routinely through the cycling of the pages. For, let's say, the 11th hole, we've moved the tee boxes for maintenance purposes. You could have pictures, a page that shows pictures from the last tournament or something. The one thing, if you're going to use this, that takes a bit of playing with is this interval between screens. This sometimes needs to be played with a bit. We normally, by default, recommend 5 seconds, but you sometimes have to tweak that. It may be going by too quickly or too slowly, so you can adjust it accordingly. Now the T-sheet notifications. This is right on the T-sheet. It's a button at the bottom. It's also on the T-sheet menu, the processing menu. And this is an easy way to send out emails to an entire T-sheet, several bookings at the same time. Obviously, it comes in handy for frost delays, weather delays, maintenance issues. Um, there are preset subject lines, but there's also a user-defined one where you can go in and put your own subject. You can always edit the text of the message that's going to be sent. You can send a copy of it to the head pro if you want, and you can put up to 5 attachments on this email. So once you define the email here, basically these tabs are used to dictate who I'm going to send this to. Now routinely, clubs that are using this, it's usually for global notification, like to warn them about a frost delay or a weather delay for tomorrow morning. Or it might be, some clubs use this as an automatic reminder. So the last person in the shop, as they're closing up, will send to all the people on the cheat sheet for tomorrow a reminder email. Basically, all you need to do is go to T-sheet, you pick which course, if you have multiple courses, what date you want to look at, and if we're doing a frost delay, what time frame. Maybe I don't need to send it to every player, I just need to send it to anyone booked from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So you can set a time frame. Basically, once you set this parameter, you click Add, and it goes and finds any booking in those parameters that has an email attached. And it'll put them down here to be sent an email. Now at this point, you can actually go through and remove people that you don't want being sent an email. And then at the bottom, you can then click Send, and it sends the email out. Yeah, specific tea times, up to 4 attachments, as we said. And you can CC it to someone else internally in the club. And there are predefined messages, or you can just write in your own message, whatever you like. Now, in conjunction with this T-sheet notification talking about frost delays, maintenance delays, you also have in the T-sheet system the ability to do a course delay, which will effectively push back a bunch of tea times over a specific date range, or a time range, I should say. So again, our frost delay, I may want this system to say, well, look, all the players booked tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., I want you to push them back by, and you dictate how far, push them back by 15, 20 minutes. Now, obviously, it's not going to bump people who are already booked at 10 o'clock. It tries to find the nearest available thing. Now, depending on how your system's configured, when you do that delay, it will automatically send out notifications, or you can use that notification one we were just looking at to send out notifications. Now, club inventory. We've added a new field into the receipt of goods, and this is for any extra charges. Now, the idea here, first of all, if you're, the idea here is I'm receiving 4 items from this vendor, and normally it's detailed what the cost price is for each item, which is fine, but then at the bottom there might be an extra charge for shipping or embroidery or whatever. So if my policy is that I want that extra cost embedded in the cost per each of those items, I now have to stop and go and figure out how much do I need to increase each of those cost price to cover that extra charge. This field will do that for you. So basically you're going to plug in, based on the invoice, what the cost price are per unit, but then at the bottom of the screen there'll be an extra charges field. So I can plug in the extra charges on that invoice, and then when I hit update, what Jonas will do is take that $12.35 and evenly distribute it among these items, bumping their unit cost accordingly to reflect that extra cost. Now, tournament module. There is a tournament module that's available for the tea time system. And it does work with the tee time system. So basically you highlight the tee times, you click the tournament button, it blocks off those tee times and takes you right into the tournament system. You can use this tournament module for blocking member or non-member tournaments, corporate events, whatever you like. You can do pairings, or you can import pairings. So if it's a third-party tournament and the organizer is going to decide who's playing with who, that's fine. They can submit an Excel sheet to you, which you can then upload into the tournament module to determine who's playing with who. So you can set up the tournament. You can enroll members into that tournament, and there's several ways of doing it. One is the old-fashioned way, which is I'll look up the member and add them to this tournament. You can create rosters within the tournament module. So you can say, these are all my golf members, these are all my social members, these are all my sports members, and then basically rather than doing it one at a time, you can use the roster and say, show me all my golf members, which would list them all here, and then I can just double click on the ones I want to enroll. Or you can import them from an Excel sheet. So as I said, you can import the pairings, or you can define the pairings right within the tournament. Now, Club Inventory Receipts. This is a new feature that was added to Accounts Payable and Club Inventory. So if you're using our purchase order module in Club Inventory, this doesn't affect you because you're already doing it through the purchase order. If you don't have the purchase order module, this gives you a tie-in between accounts payable and the receipt of goods. So this is activated underneath the AP system. So you have to go into accounts payable, files, subledger setup, and it's under options. There's an activate CI for Club Inventory receipt system. So what this receipt system does is effectively, as you're receiving goods in, there's an extra field that is looking for the receipt number. Now you don't have to do anything with that. Jonas generates a unique number automatically for each receipt. But what then happens from the accounting standpoint, when they're processing that invoice through accounts payable, they actually will be able to look up that receipt number for that vendor. Someone just typed in finally, exactly. We'll be able to type in or look up that receipt, and it would show you what was actually received, which is handy from the accounting standpoint, because I may get an invoice for items that haven't been delivered yet, or they've only partially delivered it. So rather than having to chase the pro who's probably out doing a lesson or playing, I can actually look at it directly from the AP module and see what has been processed, what have we received in. So as you're recording the invoice, there's a direct lookup right to that receipt, cash or the inventory receipt. When you pick that receipt, it will pre-populate the AP invoice field. You can override it. You don't have to. Some clubs do that because we were talking about the extra charges before. Some clubs don't pass those on. The shipping is eaten by the clubs, so they basically, there's an overcharge here for the shipping, and they deal with it as an expense. So you can always override the amounts the inventory receipt is pulling in, but if it matches, it's a quick fix for you. It'll just pull it right in for you. There is a flag underneath Setup SKUs in the Markdown field that allows you to disallow markdowns. So if you're doing markdowns using the Markdown button, you can basically flag this so that no one can mark down this particular item. And that is our session on the retail side. Now, does anyone have any questions? And it doesn't have to be about what we covered. It can be food and beverage, it could be club management, it can be anything you like.